And joining us is a lady who is no stranger to the Observer. She's always here to, expand on all the stuff that we're hearing, especially politically, socially, and everything that is unfolding before our very eyes. Let me say a pleasant good evening to political analyst Dr. Indira Rampersad. Good evening, ma'am.
Hi, good evening, Mikee K. How are you?
Well, I'm a lot better hearing your voice. Very energetic and ready to go. I love it.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, we're at a very, what should I say, in some uncharted waters. By the end of this week, we would have a new prime minister for the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. First time having someone selected and not elected. What are we looking at? Where are we at, in our stage of how many years of independence? Where are we at?
Well, unprecedented turn of events. That's what I would start with. Unprecedented because we've never had a situation where a prime minister resigns just before a general election, on the eve of a general election. We know that the elections are constitutionally due on the 20th of August, and they have 3 months, 90 days thereafter to call the election. They do have to give 35 days notice. We see that they are in election mode. Both parties, both major parties and even the smaller parties, they're selecting their candidates, they're screening, they're walking about. The campaign has already started, so they're already on the hustings. But we have here, an unusual situation, which the Constitution seeks to address in some ways, but not with this exact scenario. Because, like I said, we've never had a prime minister resigning on the eve of an election. So 76(1)(a) and B is the cause for consternation because it speaks to a member of the House of Representatives who is the leader in that House of the party which commands the support of the majority of members of the House, becoming the Prime Minister, being appointed as Prime Minister. And B speaks to where it appears to him that the party does not have an undisputed leader in that House, or that no party commands the support of such a majority, the member of the House of Representatives, who in his judgment is most likely to command the support of the majority of the House. So it is the president who shall make the appointment in such cases. But Mikee K, you would have heard the opposition leader last night citing two other clauses, and that is 76(1)(4) as well as 81. So, on the face of it, 76(a) and B does not allow for the current situation, 76(1)(a) and B, because it speaks to the leader of the House of the party which commands the support of the majority of members of that House. That is 76(1)(a). That means that it has to be the political leader. It's capital L, but it's also speaking in the House of the party, so we have a situation here where Minister Stuart Young is not the leader of the House. That's very clear. He's not the leader of the House. He was not elected. He was not selected as a leader, whatever processes they use. He was not selected as a House. The 21 signatures that were obtained, I believe sometime in January, in a council meeting, in a PNM council meeting, it was for successorship to the Prime Minister. It was for Prime Ministership, not leader of the House, because that has to go to convention. I think now it has to go to an internal election, to an election.
But the Prime Minister has the government has some of the best legal advisors out there. One would think that they would have given them clarity on how to move on such a situation. Go ahead.
And maybe they have, I'm not sure. They do have a battery of senior counsels, their legal counsels, who can give them advice. But they say it is a bit controversial. So B is even less clear. While A is unambiguous and very clear, lucidly clear, B is somewhat ambiguous. So where it appears that the party does not have an undisputed leader. That means that the party must have a disputed leader. Is Dr. Rowley a disputed leader? No. Dr. Rowley is clearly the leader of the party. But one is saying that the leader of the party is the one that becomes the Prime Minister. But here we are seeing Minister Young being appointed, or being, should I say, selected to be prime minister.
Elected. Of course, last night at that very same Maruga Tableland government primary school at cottage meeting, UNC meeting, the opposition leader said that the prime minister has two options, which Dr. Rowley has. One being to dissolve the parliament and call the elections within 3 months and let the president appoint Young as desired. Or where there is no undisputed leader, the president can then consult with PNM ministers and make an appointment. And I think that was crystal clear.
That is, she is citing now 76.4. Okay, so I just explained 76, 1A and B, and she was talking about 76.4. So he is going to be prime minister, handed over by 21 signatures. He's going to be handed over prime ministership by 21 signatures from members of the House from the PNM party on Sunday. But the parliament has not been dissolved, and 76.4 speaks to the dissolution of parliament. The election's not been called yet, so how can the parliament be dissolved? So where occasion arises for making an appointment to the office of prime minister, while parliament is dissolved, a person at the time of the appointment is a minister, may be appointed as prime minister. So we have no dissolution of parliament on Sunday. We have to get 35 days notice before the election date can be called. That is nowhere in sight. And this is why Prasad Bisesa was giving them some advice. She herself being a senior counsel, a legal luminary. So then we go to 80. Then we go to 80. But you see, I think all of this was speaking to a scenario post-election. I think this constitution was not drafted as unprecedented scenario and very, very weird, very strange scenario where prime minister is resigning before an election and passing on the prime ministership and in whichever clause he is using to do so. So 81 is saying in the exercise of his function under this constitution or any other law, the president shall act in accordance with the advice of the cabinet or minister, acting under the general authority of the cabinet, except in cases where other provision is made by this constitution or such other law. And we have other provisions being made in 76, 1A and B. And without prejudice to the generality of this exception, in cases whereby this constitution or such other law he is required to act, A, in his discretion, after consultation with any person or authority other than the cabinet, or that's B, or C, in accordance with the advice of any person or authority other than the cabinet. So what we will see happening, and it has already started. Professor Ghani has given his opinion. He's a constitutional expert, not a legal mind, but a constitutional expert, which amounts to the same thing in some ways. We have Nizam Mohammed giving his view on this, and he is disagreeing with Professor Ghani, and so is Larry Lala disagreeing. Larry Lala is a senior counsel as well, disagreeing. We have Prasad Bisesa here proffering legal advice to the government, interestingly, in a platform last night, to the Prime Minister to do the correct thing, to do the right thing in accordance with the Constitution. The question here would be, what is the right thing? So when I say that we can be headed for a constitutional crisis, is that there may be legal challenges. I don't know if it would come from the opposition or it may come from some other sources. It may come from citizens challenging that handover on Sunday, without regard for 76 1A and B and without regard for 76.4, speaking to the dissolution of Parliament.
Yeah, it seems as though the president has a lot of leeway there based on her discretion. So
this is 81.
Right.
81 speaks to the discretion of the president, right? So you see, there is legal authority. I'm not hearing you, Mikee K.
I'm hearing you loud and clear. You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good.
There is legal authority, but there is moral authority.
Right.
And it was our President Robinson who spoke about moral and spiritual values to appoint a prime minister during an 1818 deadlock in Trinidad and Tobago in 2000. I'm sure you would recall that. So the moral authority that I'm bringing in here is there is law and there is politics. And according to many politicians and political scientists, politics carry a morality of its own. It also carries a rationale of its own. So here we have this legal dilemma, but the moral dilemma, I think, speaks to the constituents of the PNM party. How do they feel? And I think Kurt Allen brought it out very, very clearly in his Calypso 2025, which brought him the second place. How do the electorate, the grassroots supporters, the rank and file of the PNM party, the hardcore base of the PNM, how do they feel about their leader, their political leader, who they elected, who they had elected, who was appointed prime minister according to due process, following due process, handing over the leadership of their party, because the party does not belong to the ministers, it does not belong to the prime minister, it does not belong to the cabinet, it does not belong to the parliamentarians, it belongs to the people, the supporters, the base. Right. How do they feel? This is the question. How do they feel about their party being handed over by 21 signatures of 21 MPs who were not really elected to do that, and whom they did not give the authority to do that? So this is where I speak about moral authority. And moral authority is very, very important, because we talk about images and we talk about perception in politics. In politics, perception can be even more important than reality. And this is a question that the party is going to face the polls at in the incoming elections.
And you're right about that. Perception goes a long way, especially in our political, our political landscape. And it goes back to the average citizen. Many times we've heard that the voice of the people is the voice of God, but conveniently, that voice that seems to be blowing in the wind. For those who may not be constitutionally inclined and have an understanding of these different sections, they may be asking, well, why are we here? Why is this necessary? We've had prime ministers before. They face the polls. Who won, who lost? We move on. We go, we continue to build, we come back, we see how best we can serve the people. Really and truly, how does this come across to the average citizen that we are in a situation here where they feel as though they've made no input and something is simply being pushed upon them?
Yes, it does seem highly undemocratic. And, it speaks to three factors which I spoke about in this very channel, Mikee K. Yeah. The three factors being race, class, and gender. That's right. So the ethnic factor will play, as we know the PNM base is Afro. And the class factor will play because the person who this prime ministership, not the leadership of the party, but the prime ministership, was handed to on a golden platter, is of a different ethnicity. But more importantly, I think, to the rank and file, is of a different class. Is of a different class altogether, in that he comes from this elite business class. And then you also have the gender factor, and we heard his comments on Adzami, so that even when he was making, giving congratulations to the women in the country on International Women's Day, there was some doubts and some comments about those disparaging remarks on the opposition leader.
Yeah, and you're right about that. Again, because what would be the morale of the entire cabinet, or should I say the executive members, when people say, listen, I want to put in my time and one day sit in the big chair, but it doesn't really turn out that way when it can simply be pulled from under you and somebody else selected. I mean, are we setting a standard here that one has to be very careful?
So one also needs to ask us about their own morality, the morality of these MPs, these 21 MPs. Because one day we see 9 of them supporting Penelope Beckles at the Magdalena, 11 supporting Stuart Young, and then next day we saw 21 signing in support of Stuart Young. So what do you really believe in? What do you stand for? What are your convictions? What's your philosophy? Where is your ethics, morality, and integrity?
You're right. You're right. And I'm certain in the psyche of many people, is this something that was a backroom deal? Was it something under the table? Negotiations took place? But at what cost? At what cost? I mean, to those that supported and those who said, all right, we're going out there and give this party a mandate to govern this country, only to find out that someone says, listen, I think I've had enough. and I want you to take this person now, and he will be in charge, but I'm going to hold on to parts of the party. I mean, it really and truly, it makes you wonder, is there a level of disrespect and scant courtesy being put out for the base of the party, and by extension, all of the country, the citizens?
Well, and I think the big question is why Stuart Young? Is it that they both have cocoa in the sun? I mean, these are questions people are asking. Why Stuart Young? Why wasn't it someone else? Why wasn't it? It has to be an MP. Why wasn't it Penny? Why wasn't it Camille? Why wasn't it, any one of those MPs there? Why was it Stuart Young? Or does it have to do something with the dragon gas? Or was he in fact called by the business community, by the 1%, the business community, whatever you want to call them, and I'm talking about the Prime Minister here, and asked to step down and pass the party on to Minister Young? What exactly took place there, and why are the cabinet? Why is the cabinet? Why are the other MPs accepting this? Why aren't they challenging this? Because they have been in the trenches, some of them much longer. They have much more experience. They've been very loyal to the leader and to the party. So there are all kinds of questions. I mean, if I was there, I would want to ask.
No, you're right. I mean, you're right. And then you have Mr. Young saying that, these are new things that he wants to implement. But where were you all along? I mean, you were part and parcel of the decision-making process in the party. You were there. You were described as the Gary Sobers to Dr. Rowley. And to come now to say that these are things that you want to look at as far as comments being made on social media, more respect for women. But you were there when it was said that women should be treated like a golf course. They should be groomed and open umbrella and go and put this where the monkey put the nuts. And all of these comments that were nasty, you were there. You were part and parcel of it. What new can you offer now?
It would be in the minds of the population. I think everyone who has the franchise, the right to vote, it certainly would be. These are factors that will be playing on the minds, and let's see how the electorate will deal with it. But I'm also wondering what is the hesitancy to dissolve the parliament, because, like I said, 76.
Yeah.
76.4 speaks directly to the dissolution of the parliament. You don't hand over prime ministership before the parliament is dissolved. And then what will happen to political leadership? What will happen to political leadership, even if you hand over the prime ministership? Who would be the leader of the PNM going into the elections? Would it be Dr. Rowley continuing as leader? Can he continue as leader after the parliament is dissolved? No. There are a number of questions, because we need to keep in mind also that his seat is now given to someone else, the Martin West. We have this young Devines is going to be running for that seat.
That's right.
So Dr. Rowley will no longer be political leader after the elections. Even if the seat goes to the PNM, he's not going to be the leader of the PNM. By any means.
You're right. And also last night, the opposition leader did raise an issue asking, she challenged the prime minister to reveal the names of those allegedly encouraging the United States to revoke visas and impose sanctions on Trinidad and Tobago. And these comments came in response to a recent update from the U.S. State Department, which included TNT among 23 nations where American travelers were advised to exercise heightened caution. What is this about encouraging U.S. sanctions? And if anything, that decision will have to be made, of course, in the White House.
Well, it's a damning indictment. It's a damning accusation, and to make that kind of accusation, which have global and international repercussions and also implications for our relationship with the United States, which is our largest trading partner, you should come forward with evidence. I don't think you can just stand in a platform or in some forum and make comments like that just idly so. You should have proof. You should have evidence, and you should bring it forward.
Yeah. Finally, the battle lines have been drawn. This according to Chairman of the PNM, Mr. Stuart Young. Again, he made a declaration after the party's General Secretary, Foster Cummings, announced that the PNM will present all 41 of their candidates for the upcoming general election after the party holds a special convention this Sunday, March 16. So the battle lines have been drawn, but yet still we have no date for when the election bell is going to be rung. What are we really witnessing here again? Because there are those who are saying that they're all 41. The UNC is yet, I believe, 8 or 9 candidates. The UNC is saying, listen, don't mind my business. I mean, this is like we have 2 training squads here playing football, let's say. You have your camp, we have our camp. We really and truly are not concerned about what your strategy is, but we are going to show up on game day and we guarantee you that we are going to have victory. What are we really seeing playing out here? Is it that the UNC is saying, listen, we don't want to get any of these things lost. All these issues with Petrotrin, the deal with that Nigerian company, the issue of the Auditor General, all of these things, we don't want it to be lost in the fact that you may just be looking for kinks in the armor of our candidates. What say you?
I say that it seems as though the government is not sure what it is about. It's screening candidates, certainly it's screen 41. And I should say the PNM party here, because this is not the government, this is the PNM party. I'm not so sure they know what there's about. Uncertainty abounds. There's a high level of uncertainty. We are in a state of emergency. There are issues now with investor confidence in our economy. Cruise ships being turned back, crime still running unabated. That's not subsided in any way. And they got very, very anxious to open this, that, and the next. There's been a video circulating of that hospital. And the hospital is actually still under construction. That is what the video is showing. And that was open and ribbon cut. Was it yesterday, Mikee K? So, they have to be careful of making a joke out of themselves, of, being too desperate. As I say, desperate times calls for desperate measures, but you have to be warned against looking ludicrous and ridiculous on the eve of an election.
I agree with you. And all we're being told is to stand by and we will see things unfold. I mean, that's all that is being offered by the Prime Minister select, not the Prime Minister elect, that stand by and watch things unfold. That doesn't give us much confidence in how we are going to move forward. But any closing comments? Go right ahead.
So I would conclude by saying the country is still in a state of flux, in a state of uncertainty. We still have a high level of crime. The economy is still in shambles. We still cannot get forex. The average John in the street is having a difficult problem. I know some small and medium-sized business enterprises, they're struggling, they're suffering, while the others, the larger conglomerates, have access to the foreign exchange. We are purchasing oil. We're purchasing refined oil. We shut down a refinery. We are purchasing oil even from Jamaica, which is quite a joke. And as much as the Prime Minister attempted to defend that, I don't think he can succeed. And, the cost of living is still rising, food and fuel, housing and transportation. There are so many problems just before this election to come and say, just stand back and wait. We've been waiting, and it seems as though we are waiting for Godot.
I agree with you 100%. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Again, let's see how things unfold. I mean, that's all we can basically do at this time. We're not being told anything that is concrete to have an idea of what the policies are going to be. Candidates are going to be on focus this weekend, and after that, well, when the question was asked, of course, what to expect after that, Mr. Young made it clear that, Dr. Rowley is leaving and they're preparing for an election. So let's see what happens. Thank you so much again.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.